right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Stephanie Weaver, and I'm the Public Relations Officer for the County of Berks. I am here with District Attorney John Adams, Chief County Detective Michael Gumbar, and Lieutenant Harold Schenk to hold a press conference to provide further information about the investigation into the officer-involved shooting in Reading on September 13th. This press conference is being streamed live to the District Attorney's Facebook page to allow for virtual participation. We ask any media representatives with questions to submit them by email to the contact information you were provided yesterday. We will only be accepting questions related to this investigation. Thank you, and I'll hand it over to District Attorney Adams.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for attending this press conference today. With me today is Chief County Detective Michael Gumbar and Lieutenant Harold Schenk of the Berks County District Attorney's Office Detective Unit. On September 13th, 2020, Berks County detectives responded to an officer-involved shooting. Every officer-involved shooting that takes place in Berks County is mandated to be investigated by an independent investigative agency. Therefore, the lead investigative agency in most officer-involved shootings will be my department, as we were in this case and have been in the past in many other officer-involved shootings. The investigative team conducted an exhaustive neighborhood canvass, including interviews with police officers, residents, and motorists, and I have identified 3 victims. Detectives reviewed footage from the city's video surveillance units, a Reading Housing Authority camera, and the officers' body cameras. In the footage, the suspect is seen pointing what appears to be a handgun at one of the victims prior to police arrival, in the direction of an approaching police vehicle, and then at the first officer on the scene. The suspect displays erratic behavior throughout this incident. Detectives also served a search warrant at the apartment of victim 3, where the original altercation took place. Officers fired a total of 16 shots, and the suspect was struck multiple times. The suspect was not struck 16 times, but was struck multiple times. The suspect remains hospitalized in critical but stable condition as of today. The suspect's name is Lakim Miller-Nock. That is her legal name. She prefers to be known as Roxanne Moore. She identifies as a female. During the investigation, detectives learned the following. On September 13th, 2020, at approximately 7 a.m., inside the apartment at the 800 block of Franklin Street, the suspect got into an argument with others. She then started a small fire on the stove, which led to an altercation with the other suspects. The altercation ended with the suspect forcefully stealing a handgun from victim number 1. Video surveillance camera footage from the 800 block of Franklin Street shows the suspect leaving the apartment at about 7:05 a.m. and waving what appears to be a handgun in the air. She was wearing red shorts and what appears to be a white sports bra. The footage shows the suspect walking towards South and 8th and Franklin Streets and into the first block of South 8th Street. She was then seen pistol whipping a man we refer to as victim 2 with the firearm. The suspect chased victim 2 to the corner of South 8th and Franklin Streets and was seen with her right arm fully extended and pointing what appears to be a handgun at the man. Victim 2 was able to avoid the suspect and flees. As this confrontation was occurring, the Berks County Department of Emergency Services received a 911 call at 7:08 a.m. reporting shots fired. I will tell you at this point there were no shots fired. However, that was the report that the 911 center received. The caller, victim 3, told investigators that the suspect threatened to shoot and kill her. Reading police officers arrived at the scene at around 7:11 a.m. Security footage showed the suspect looking up 8th Street and then running through the crosswalk with her left arm extended, fully extended. She appeared to be pointing a gun up the street in the direction of the arriving marked police vehicles. The suspect continued to run up the sidewalk in the 800 block of Franklin Street, then stumbled and fell in front of 804 Franklin Street. The officer who had just arrived got out of his police vehicle, drew his departmental issued firearm as he exited his vehicle, and ran toward the suspect in the 800 block of Franklin Street. At least one witness and the officer told investigators the suspect pointed the gun at the approaching officer. In the officer's body cam footage, he was heard commanding the suspect multiple times to drop the gun before he fired at the suspect. He then gave another command to drop the firearm before firing a second time. The officer gave yet another drop it command as 2 other officers arrived on scene and also fired shots. Once the officers realized that the suspect was wounded, they ceased fire, they moved towards her, and yelled for her to put her hands up. The officers encountered the suspect lying between 2 parked vehicles and found a handgun on the sidewalk within close proximity to the suspect. The officers requested EMS emergency response and did themselves begin administering life-saving procedures to the suspect. The suspect remained conscious throughout and talked to the officers until EMS arrived. The firearm was the firearm was recovered from the scene. It was a loaded Smith & Wesson .38 caliber 5-shot chrome revolver with a brown handle. It was fully loaded at the time of this incident. The cylinder contained 5 cartridges, but this revolver had a safety mechanism which was engaged that could only be released with a separate key, and therefore the gun in its present condition as the officers found it, laying on the sidewalk, was incapable of firing. However, this was not, and we will show you a photograph of the firearm later on. Based upon the facts of what took place here, the law that we must follow here in Pennsylvania, I have determined that the shooting was a reasonable use of force, which is justified under the law here in Pennsylvania. I would specifically refer to Chapter 5 of the Crimes Code, specifically Section 508. The Berks County Detective's Office will be filing criminal charges, including aggravated assault, robbery, and other related charges against the suspect once she is medically cleared and discharged from the hospital. The District Attorney's Office, we are releasing several stills during this press conference today, and we will release the full body cam footage to the suspect's attorney. We will not be releasing the full body cam footage to the public at this time, since this is an open investigation and the footage could affect the suspect, Lakim Miller-Nock, right to a fair and impartial trial. This is not the same type of situation that we had in Lancaster recently, where that individual was deceased, and therefore there would be no additional criminal charges could be filed. In this case, we will be filing criminal charges, and we want to protect the defendant's right to a fair and impartial trial, if he so chooses. This is an ongoing investigation. If anyone has information or witnessed any of the events which took place in the area of South 8th and Franklin Streets on Sunday morning around between 7 a.m. and 7:30 a.m., please contact the Berks County Detectives at 610-478-7171. We are aware, after reviewing all of the surveillance footage in this case, that there were some other individuals who were in cars that could have been threatened, because from the video surveillance that we have reviewed, the gun was pointed at them also. At this point, I will be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Oh, and yes, we want to show the photos first. And the first photo is of the suspect, Lakim Miller-Nock, also known, prefers to be known as Roxanne Moore. This is a photograph which depicts the suspect with the handgun in her hand. I think you can see the silver revolver which she is carrying there on Franklin Street in the city of Reading. That's in the around the 800 block of Franklin Street. In that photo, you clearly depict the suspect pointing the handgun. Again, it's around the early 7:11 a.m. And the suspect is pointing the gun at victim number 2 at 8th and Franklin Streets. Again, this is 7:11 a.m. and the suspect looks in the direction of the approaching police vehicles and starts running east on Franklin Street with a gun pointing in the direction of the police vehicles who are arriving on 8th Street. They are coming from City Hall. And this is the suspect's gun. As you will see, I'm not too familiar with this, but this is a gun that has a safety mechanism on it. That is the key to unlock the safety. This gun was forcibly taken from one of the victims. Prior to the police arrival, it was taken while the suspect was in the victim's apartment, and I think that the suspect lived at that apartment also. But the suspect forcibly took this gun from the victim. And as you will depict in that photo, it's a silver .38 caliber revolver. So with that, with those photographs, and those are the only photographs that we are releasing. We will not release, again, the body cam footage because our suspect, victim, is alive and will be charged criminally for the actions that took place Sunday morning. If there are any other questions, I'd be happy.
I'm wondering about the charges of the suspect wielding the weapon and there being bystanders around, and with the knowledge of knowing that that gun could not fire.
Well, let me tell you this. The only person that knew that that gun could not fire, most likely, was the owner of the gun from which it was taken. The fact is that the suspect was pointing that gun. As you can see, there's no way anyone can determine that that's from a distance that that gun is unable to be fired. Absolutely not. So the defendant will face charges for the offenses that occurred in utilizing that firearm. We only learned after the fact that the gun was, in essence, unable to be fired, and only because the suspect did not have that key to unlock the safety mechanism. And frankly, we are very fortunate that that safety mechanism was on, because otherwise we could have had a horrible, horrible disaster.
You said so the police officers, obviously, this gun can't fire. It's the police officers who fired the 16 shots.
Correct.
Have you looked at the number of shots fired and wondered whether you needed all that firepower in what is a busy little area down there?
Well, we've examined that, but we have determined that the police used appropriate measures throughout this incident. This gun was pointed at them. There was absolutely no way possible that those officers or anyone else involved in this, including the victims that we have interviewed, that they knew that this gun could not be fired. I'm not even aware that the victim from whom the gun was stolen had any knowledge that, she had the key and it was in the locked position versus the unlocked position. So this weapon, we are just, I think, blessed by the fact that the gun was unable to be fired Sunday morning.
Have you had any prior history with this person? Do you know of them? Do police know of them in some way?
Yes, she is known to the police. Yes, she is. She is known to the police.
Do you have any mental health issues? Folks in the street thought that maybe she did.
Yes, there are mental health issues. And as early as a couple weeks prior to this incident, officials from probation and parole attempted to have this individual 302. So yes, there's some history of mental health. There is also some other history that of potential drug use, but we do not at this point in time know whether or not this individual is under the influence. We are, as part of this investigation, are seeking to obtain the medical records and to obtain any other information that we can to determine why she behaved in this manner this Sunday morning.
But she had been on parole. I mean, obviously, they've tried to 302 her. She's had contact with the system.
She's had contact.
Probation, huh?
She's had contact with the system. She is presently on Berks County probation and parole, and they have been actively working with her and have took what I consider appropriate steps to obtain mental health treatment for her.
Were the officers that were involved with this, had they been on administrative leave until this was figured out?
Yes, they are on administrative leave, and I'm not certain actually when they will return to being active again, but yes, they are, as part of the procedures and protocols, they were on administrative leave. Now, many of these determinations will be made internally by the Reading Police Department. We will not be involved in those decision-making. That will be internal matters for the Reading Police Department.
I just had a couple more if I could. Do you have any sense how much contact parole and probation had with this person? Do you think their supervision was sufficient considering their mental health issues? Any sense?
Absolutely. There was a lot of contact. And I'm not at liberty today to discuss any, anything further regarding the mental health, but I will tell you this. Berks County Probation and Parole worked diligently to obtain help for the defendant.
If you asked if the investigators asked the defendant whether she knew that gun was locked?
We did not, we have not interviewed the defendant. The defendant is represented by counsel, and we have not interviewed her at all.
If your supposition is she believed it was, or wanted to fire it, or?
Yes, from interviews with civilian witnesses and the interviews that we conducted with the police officers who were involved, she was pointing the gun. She was pointing the gun at the police officers, and that is corroborated not only by the police, but also by the civilian witnesses who were in the vicinity and were very close to this, where this shooting took place. So this is corroborated by civilian witnesses also.
I have just one more. Do you feel some obligation now to speak in a detailed way about any police shooting, offer pictures, speak at length because of the unrest and concern in the country over some police behavior and police deaths?
I believe that when we have any instances of the use of force by the police, that we need to be very transparent to our community in order that our community is assured that the police are acting in a manner that is reasonable under the law. So we will always, in any case that comes through, that happens here in Berks County, we will always be as transparent as possible. And I would have released the body cam footage, but for the fact that it's evidence in a criminal case, and therefore it will be released at the appropriate time to defense counsel through the discovery process. Otherwise, we would be happy to release it. But we have to also understand that we will protect the rights of the accused, and we will make certain that the accused can receive a fair and impartial trial.
Are the photos that you have of the suspect today, are those from, like, the officer's body cams that are stills, or are they, like, cameras in the area?
They are from other sources of video. And I want to, I just want to thank you for asking that question. We had multiple sources of video surveillance available to us in this case. We had footage, and I think I mentioned this, from body cams. We had footage from the Reading Housing Authority. We had footage from the City of Reading's camera unit. So we have 3 independent sources of video in this case. These stills are not taken from the body cams. These stills are taken from either the Housing Authority cameras or the City of Reading's video surveillance unit, which are the city cameras.
I've spoken to a lot of people who have either been upset or concerned about the use of the defendant's legal name. Could you speak a little bit about either the requirement or choice to identify the person by their legal name rather than the name they prefer?
Well, in any situation where criminal charges are going to be filed, we will be filing and we are mandated to file criminal charges utilizing that person's legal name. We do not file charges under an alias, and we will not, under any circumstance, file charges under an alias. This person, we are referring to her as Roxanne Moore here today. But in any legal documents that will be filed, they will be filed under her legal name, Lakim Miller-Nock. Thank you. All right, thank you.